hope you had your hair and makeup done. We didn't.
I think it's okay.
But they can fix that in post-production. My name is Brian Jones, and that's my colleague Linda Edgar. We are outreach coordinators with the Dutchess County Office for the Aging, which means we are the eyes and the ears and the mouth of the older adults of Dutchess County and their caregivers, which is pretty much everybody. There will be a quiz. There's no real grading coming up a little bit later on, but we have a lot of older adults in the county, if you hadn't noticed by now. A little bit very quickly about myself. I was born here in Rhinebeck at Northern Dutchess County, Dutchess Hospital during the 1964 county fair. There was a bad wreck that year at the Joey Chitwood Thrill Show, and so there was 4 guys who had been injured, and me being born, and that's how my life got to a start. You may recognize my last name because of my parents, Bob and Pat, who taught at Chancellor Livingston School before there was such a thing as Chancellor Livingston School. And so they taught for about 34 years apiece. And I didn't go into the family business, though. I didn't want summers off and tenure or anything like that. I spent many, many years as a radio personality on various stations throughout the Hudson Valley. So if you heard of Miller and Jones, I'm the Jones.
I didn't know that.
And then about 9 years ago, I found the Office for the Aging. And my predecessors also worked in the radio business. They thought I'd be good at this. Eventually, they will be right. I want to start with a story that may be kind of common, and it comes from long before I got to the Office for the Aging. This was around 2004. My dad had passed away the year before. I had, within the previous 2 years, gotten married, bought a house, and became the father to my first child. And as a result, I couldn't swing by my mom's house up on Cedar Heights Road the way I used to take care of all those little things that when you're married to someone, you kind of take them for granted. Partner A does the lawn, knows who the plumber is, figures out the taxes, balances the checkbook. The other partner takes care of the cooking and shovels the driveway and goes to the grocery store and knows what needs to be on the list. And when one of those partners is gone, a lot of times the remaining surviving partner knows not a whole lot. And so I could see my mom was struggling trying to take care of the house by herself. And I stopped by one day and I said, look, Mom, you can understand that I got the little baby and I got a wife and I got a new house of my own. Would you mind if I called the Office for the Aging? And she cut me off. She said, no, they're going to put me in a home. And I didn't get it then. I get it now. Because if there's one thing that older people perceive as a threat universally, it's any real or what they think of as a threat to their independence. That's the one major fear. We ask, people have been polled, well, what do older people fear the most? And the assumption among younger people is, well, death. And by now, by our age, I'm 60, it's kind of priced in. We've got other things to worry about. We would like to be independent where we are, where we like. I mean, Rhinebeck's great. As New Yorkers, we all like to complain about potholes. We complain about taxes. We complain about this, that, and the other thing. And a lot of us say, as soon as the kids graduate, I'm out of here. And then you realize, man, you get down to Del Boca Vista in Florida or whatever, and it's just, I got to find a new doctor. I got to find a new plumber. I got to do this. I got to, enough. And there's hurricanes coming. We don't get a whole lot of hurricanes up here. This is great. I want to stay here for the rest of my life if I possibly can. So, and that's what the Office for the Aging is about. Does the nursing home conversation come up? Yes, sometimes it does, because that's a key part of the system for that subset of older people who aren't able to safely live independently anymore. But we are not in any hurry. If anybody who knows what the price tag is on a month in a nursing home, you'll know why. Because people blow through their assets and then it falls to Medicaid to pay for, and that's the taxpayers. So we're all kind of on the same page where we in the government want people to stay independent, and we will make the investments as necessary to do that. And you, the seniors of Dutchess County, want to stay independent at all possible. But what comes up in all of our lives at one point or another is, I'll call it the uh-oh moment. You're cruising along just fine, and I'm thinking of my in-laws right now. They're in their early 80s. They're in fantastic health, that is. But I worry, and my wife worries about that phone call. Uh-oh, Dad fell, broke his hip. You know, Mom got in a car crash. She thought she got lost or something like that when she was driving. Oh, we're waiting for that. But you can also prepare for that, and one of the ways you prepare for that kind of thing is getting to know an agency like the Office for the Aging before you need us. In a way, it's nothing different from picking out a new mechanic. Let's say you've got a new car, or you did move to a new town, and now you need a new mechanic. Well, you want to find that new mechanic on a decent day in May, not during a snowstorm in January. You want to do it when you have time to do your homework and have a plan. Make your wishes known. Is the plan going to be perfect? No. Nobody's plan survives first contact with reality, but getting your head in that space where you can make the plans is a massive help. There are a lot of older people here in Dutchess County, here in New York State, in the Northeast, and altogether. If you can take a closer look at that map, this is from the Census Bureau. From 2010 to 2019, Dutchess County's older population grew between 30 and 60%, while the overall population stayed about the same. Now, double-edged sword here. Good news is you've got strength in numbers. Our elected officials will listen to older people just because there are so many of them, and they vote. And you can vote for services, but on the other end of that double-edged sword is there are not enough people that there used to be to help that people used to take for granted. It was easy for my parents to find a plumber when they moved up here from the city in 1962. It got to be a bit more of a project when my wife and I moved to Tivoli in 2003. You may have heard of something called a population pyramid. And you're looking at that chart right now, and I don't expect you to see all those numbers, but you're thinking, well, that's not pyramid shaped. 60 years ago, though, when we were kids and teenagers, it was pyramid shaped, except that that bottom of the pyramid is now up here. And there's about 80,000 of us here in Dutchess County, and right on their heels is another 40,000 from 50 to 59, but that leaves an uh-oh moment because there are not enough people in that younger age group, and they've all got their own kids to raise too. So they're stretched in the middle. You may have heard of the phrase sandwich generation. That's what those are, people in their 40s, 50s, 60s who are taking care of kids, even grandkids, and their own parents who may be in their 80s and 90s. And the Office for the Aging can help caregivers. We can make it just a little bit easier as best we can. Quick quiz here. What percentage of town and village of Rhinebeck residents are over 60? Take a guess.
D.
What's that?
B. D.
D?
I say B.
B? Anybody for A or C? C. C. Well, I have to reshuffle these answers maybe because the correct answer is D. It's almost half.
Wow.
I mean, that's nuts. That's over 60. So, and that's even, factoring out the fact that we do have 2 nursing homes in Dutchess County. Even in the village of Rhinebeck, where there are no nursing homes, the median age is well over 50. Median age is 52 in the village and 59 in the town. That's jumped by quite a few years, even since the last time I looked at this 3 years ago. And all across northern Dutchess, Red Hook, Mineland, Pine Plains, down Millerton, down through the Harlem Valley, Stanfordville, Clinton, Millbrook, all these towns have these similarly high median ages of people, which means there's a lot of you, but the way things may have worked for us 50 years ago may not work today. So adaptability is going to be key to aging successfully because we have a shortage of caregivers. The caregiver ratio, the ratio of people needing care to people being people who can care for them, peaked around 2010, and that is around the year when the oldest baby boomers, born in 1946, started retiring. And in the past 15 years, they've started retiring. And were they replaced with someone who was younger? Not always. So that's where the problems come in. So when you want to get to know the Office for the Aging at this stage of right now, before you need us, if you called us at the Office for the Aging, 486-2555, very easy number, something wild happens. This is amazing. Whose mind is blown? Everybody? A human answers the phone. You call us during business hours. It's fantastic. And we have a wonderful front desk crew. One of them is bilingual English-Spanish, but for those of you who care for people who speak languages other than English, I want to mention this now, that everyone is, they're paying taxes here no matter where they came from and whatever language they feel most comfortable in. We work with a service called Language Line. It takes a couple days to arrange, but, let's say somebody emigrated here 30, 40 years ago and they're around my age, but mom, she's still back in the old country. Except as mom gets near the end of her life, they want the whole family to be together again. And so sometimes mom comes over from wherever it was in the world, and it can be anywhere. And now they're in a brand new country and they're 80, 85 years old, and the only language they speak is Polish, or one of the many languages of India or Africa or South America. And if they feel most comfortable speaking in French, Polish, Malayalam from India, we can work on getting somebody who can translate so that they're comfortable communicating with us about the services that they may be eligible to. One of those services, and it may be some of the first people you talk to after you speak with the crew at our front desk, is called NY Connects. And NY Connects is statewide, and they help us at the Office for the Aging figure out what's available not just in Dutchess County, but elsewhere nearby in New York State. Because we have a lot of people who talk to us as caregivers. Maybe they're here in Dutchess County, but their relative that they're caring for is over on the other side of the river, say they're in Ulster County or something like that. The services work through the Ulster County OFA, and every county in New York has an Office for the Aging or something that's very much like it. So, you could share this with your friends anywhere else in New York, and they'll have somewhere to jump off where they can get information from their county as well. Works a little differently in Connecticut and Massachusetts and New Jersey. Anyway, back to NY Connects. What they do is they're not going to make up your mind for you on the services they need, but you're starting out talking to us and you may not know anything about what's what. But you're asking that question, well, where am I going to be in 5, 10, 20, 30 years or more? And we can get some of those conversations underway. We're helping people try to stay independent, learning about what's available in the community, deciding what services would be best for you. We'll help you out with that decision. And then we get you some help in connecting these kind of services. And it can be a whole lot of different things. And again, it's part of New York State government, but it operates within the Office for the Aging. We have friendship centers all over the county. Nearest one to us is in Red Hook at the community center up there on Fisk Street. There are 7 others, and it's a great gathering place, so there's socialization. They'll get a nutritious meal. There's also transportation often available to the sites, and we do weekly grocery shopping trips as well, because one of the things maybe we took for granted now is being able to get to, Tops, or maybe being able to get to, Kilmer's 40 years ago. What if you can't make that trip all of a sudden? You may want to plan for that kind of thing for down the road. So we have those 8 friendship centers, and a lot of other towns have their own municipally operated friendship centers as well. Rhinebeck has what's called an aging in place organization called Rhinebeck at Home. That is membership based, but it's an excellent organization. I've done a lot of presentations on their behalf, and that's a group of senior citizens pooling their funds to help each other because they realize, the cavalry is not always coming, just out of sheer numbers. We have senior exercise classes. We have an instructor here. Hi, Judy. Judy, before I got to the Office for the Aging, she had volunteered become an exercise instructor. It's for all our various volunteering efforts, you don't, for example, for exercise, nobody needs you to be a gym rat. Nobody, do I look like the picture of fitness? No. We have multiple locations for exercise in our Tai Chi classes. One of the things that can really mess with whatever best laid plans you have for your aging is a fall. You don't want to do that. And sometimes we treat that kind of thing as inevitable, and it's not. A lot of these falls are preventable, and that's what the class, A Matter of Balance, is all about. It's a once-a-week class for 8 weeks. The spring session, I believe, we're just wrapping up now, and we're starting to take signups for the fall classes. But it's a great way to learn about how to lay out your own home, how to think about what happens if you do trip over something. How do you fall the right way, if it can't be avoided, to avoid an injury? And if you do fall and wind up on the ground, how do you get back up again? We think about all those kind of things. We have a class called Bingo Size. Now, Bingo Size, well, we have a lot of people who like bingo. We have a lot of people who like exercise. They might not like the same thing together, but it's like Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. We're going to put them together, so we call a few bingo numbers, and then we stop, and then there's some exercise. Oh. And only after the exercise is there more bingo. And it seems to work pretty well. And for all those days where you don't feel like getting your exercise in, I mean, there's all kinds of options, tons of places to go for a walk around here. If that's what you can manage, it's great. But there are those days where, I know I got to get my exercise in, but I don't want to go to the class because it's February and it's snowing. We have Staying Active and Independent for Life, which is a remote exercise option. We have an entire, yes?
I just want to put in a plug for that last one. That is such an excellent class. I just had it this morning. It's Wednesday and Friday, Wednesday at 10 a.m. and Friday at 2:30. And she's just a fantastic teacher. It's on Zoom, so you don't have to go anyplace. And it focuses on balance and strengthening and stretching. It's not like cardio. You don't get totally out of breath or anything. But anyway, it's wonderful. And the reason I want to put a plug in is I'm very worried that there aren't that many people, and I sure don't want to lose it. So check it out. I think it's free, but I think you have to make an application.
Yeah, call up and apply for it. But when it does come for exercise, I have a whole other presentation, in fact, on the importance of exercise, because we have people who like to join classes and people who don't like to join classes. And whatever works for you is great in terms of exercise. Moving on to our nutrition division, you've all heard the brand name Meals on Wheels. They've the brand name Meals on Wheels has kind of taken over all forms of home meal delivery. You know how, like, if you need a box of tissues, you call it Kleenex. So home meal deliveries often are called Meals on Wheels. They do exist in Dutchess County. We help them out. They work in the village of Rhinebeck along with the Hyde Park School District and elsewhere. And when they top out in capacity, we jump in and help them. But we cover the whole county regardless. Often with hot meals when we can do it. Sometimes with frozen meals. If we have a shortage of volunteers and we can only get out to somebody's house once a week, we'll get them 5 frozens once a week. We have shelf-stable meals in advance of bad weather and holidays like upcoming Memorial Day as well. There is a screening involved for that kind of thing, and it's not indefinite free meals if they're not needed. If somebody's just rehabbing from an injury and they can't get to the store the way they normally would, that can, for a little while at least, while they recover, make them eligible to cover a few things that might otherwise go missing. Getting around is always tricky, especially in rural Dutchess County. We have various transportation options available through OFA. There are some specific to certain parts of Dutchess County. The county operates Dial-A-Ride, and I think, their regular, what they used to call the loop bus, I think it still goes down, it's going down Route 9 now. It starts in Tivoli and goes down to Poughkeepsie. We have ADA complimentary paratransit available through county public transit, and some houses of worship may have transportation programs. But I want to skip ahead to one of our newest ventures. It's a partnership with an organization called Go Go Grandparent. And what Go Go basically is it's Uber and Lyft for older people for their non-emergency medical transportation. Now, you may be familiar with ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft, but you're thinking, I don't have a mobile device. Don't worry about it. Well, Go Go works with them, and they can work with anybody who has any kind of phone, whether it's a mobile device or a landline. There's also a new Go Go venture that works with the County Division of Veterans of Services, but the thing we ask when it comes to Go Go, and I can fill people on this after the presentation, is register for it first with the Office for the Aging, because doing that gets you a limited number of free trips to those exams. You know, for example, let's say you had to go to the eye doctor, and they put the drops in and you're not really comfortable with driving back after that's done. Go Go would help you take care of that trip to the eye doctor. You know, it's a limited number of trips, and they are all within Dutchess County, so it's not great for everything. If, you know, we can't go to Kingston, we can't go to Albany, or, you know, Montrose or Westchester Medical Center or anything like that. But if it's within Dutchess, it's perfect. We all have those legal needs. You know, whether our net worth is 10 bucks or 10 million bucks, and we have a lawyer we contract with. His name's Paul Weinberger, and he's in every Friday, because we have to take care of those little things, like the simplest of wills, power of attorney, those kind of things, questions about housing issues as well. And we try to get Paul out on the road when we can as well. We've held a couple of OFA legal days with him just around the corner on 308 at the Pavilion at Brookmead. We've been there, so we're due to get him up there again pretty soon. So we will let you know when that's happening again. We have energy assistance programs. The one most of you know of already is operates under the acronym HEAP. And I promise I will keep very few, I will try not to over-acronym, because I know when I got to the government 9 years ago, I could not speak jargon. I could not speak acronyms, and I still can't. So I have to keep going back and looking up, and I think this one only has 2 or 3 acronyms in it. But HEAP helps out with energy bills, most notably over the colder months, but there's also a cooling component that's now underway, and people who may need that can call and find out if they qualify. There's information about housing for older adults and what assistance they may qualify there. I'll tell you right now, there's not enough senior housing anywhere in Dutchess County. And you're thinking, well, you know what? I like my house anyway. I want to live here for the rest of my life. And great. You'll have to have a plan for that. You want to make sure that if you have an issue, you know, navigating stairs, that you're not in one of those charming 3-floor Victorians in the village of Rhinebeck that will be, you know, I'm not climbing all those stairs. I remember one of my first jobs out of college was at the Gazette Advertiser. And one of my first assignments was Christmas at Wilderstein, the mansion on the river where FDR's cousin and confidant Daisy Suckley lived. And Daisy was still alive at that point. She was about 97. And if you've ever been inside Wilderstein, it's this gorgeous old house, but there are stairs everywhere. And this was a Christmas event with the Town Chamber of Commerce. And at one point, she wanted to climb a stool to put the star on top of the tree. And everyone there went, oh! You never saw so many spotters. But that's, you know, that's the kind of thing we want to get into about, and when we talk about the right kind of housing, where you want to have some place where the fall risks are minimized. Questions have come up this year about our Social Security office in Poughkeepsie. To the point where County Executive Sue Serino and Congressman Pat Ryan had to hold a joint bipartisan press conference to emphasize it's not going anywhere. The office in Poughkeepsie is, they signed a 10-year lease, as a matter of fact. So if you need those in-person services, it's going to be there. There's a lot, though, that they can help you with that you could get done online. So one of the things we wind up being pulled into at the Office for the Aging is helping out with rumor control. Because, you know, people, you know, I heard this in the news.
Right.
And, you know, that's, I have to look at it and see what's verified and see what's not and see what's information is incomplete. And we spend a lot of time looking at our magic 8-ball and trying to figure out what's going on in Washington and Albany. If you are an older person, you get a lot of mailers about health insurance, about Medicare, Medicare Advantage, and so on and so forth. The mailers will start picking up over the summer, and as we get into open enrollment season in the fall, and you're looking at all these ads, and you don't know what's, I mean, if you're a retired public employee, it's not too bad, but if you're getting all these messages and the TV commercials, do we remember there was a Medicare Advantage commercial a few years ago with William Shatner? And my wife and I are huge Star Trek fans. And I turned to her and I said, Celeste, where is William Shatner from? And she piped up. She says, Montreal. Does William Shatner have any need of Medicare? No, he's Canadian and he's stinking rich. People don't think about that sometimes with these ads. That's why the celebrity endorsers get paid what they get paid. So that's why we have the Health Insurance Information Counseling and Assistance Program, acronym warning, HICAP. And we, again, don't help you make up your mind on that kind of thing, but we can get you into the place where when you do make up your mind, you're going to make an intelligent decision. If for some reason you have the kind of skills where you're good at that kind of thing and sorting out the jargon and the legalese, we would love to have you as a volunteer because that is a rare skill indeed. You help tons of people with all kinds of really confusing paperwork. We have orientation sessions. If you think you can cover some of it yourself, we do have one monthly at Star Library in Rhinebeck. However, there's no session in May because they hold their sessions on the fourth Monday of the month, and this month the fourth Monday is Memorial Day. So we're going to pick up where we left off in June. That is Nina Lynch. She's actually also the head of Rhinebeck at Home. So if you asked her about that, she'd be able to help you out with that as well. But before she joined Rhinebeck at Home and founded it, she spent 11 years as the Medicare guru with the Office for the Aging. We also have workshops at the Poughkeepsie Galleria and also at the Adrian's Library in Poughkeepsie. And as we get into open enrollment season, we add more Medicare seminars. We have a lot of these presentations. This is kind of the greatest hits presentation. Linda has a larger presentation than what she's going to do today on the Friendly Calls program. My colleague, our nutrition coordinator, Nimesh Bhargava, he covers all kinds of nutrition topics. I have one that's called Successful Aging, and that was my first presentation. It was passed down to me from my predecessor. And my old radio colleagues found out I was doing these presentations. They said, what's successful aging? You wake up, you look in the newspaper, your name's not in the obituaries, and that's successful. Are we good? Is that it? Government jobs are that easy? Ooh, funny. We got any jobs with the county, man? I do a lot of presentations on scam and identity theft prevention as well. I could go on all afternoon, so I better move along now. We have a lot more presentations, and having grown up in Rhinebeck, I love old churches. I used to be the organist at Good Shepherd, and Linda let me fiddle around with the organ there for a little bit. I understand it's having some technical difficulties, so I just did a couple of bars of Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor and said, okay, I'm out. We have our newsletters, and I have them in my bag. I'll get you to those to you at the end. We have this is our new newsletter called Thrive 60 Plus. Used to be called Spotlight on Seniors until a gentleman came up to me and our director, Todd Tancredi, and said, look, I am 62. I just retired. I just ran a marathon. Don't call me a senior. We said, you know what? He's got a point. Because people are sitting there thinking like, I'm barely an adult. You're calling me a senior. What happened? Slow down. I'm going to do this for a while. They're 60. They want to get to 70, want to get to 80, 90, 100. We have a lot of volunteers, as I alluded to earlier on. Linda will talk to you about Friendly Calls volunteering. We have people who help out with exercise classes, friendship centers around the office. They help out at our picnics too. We have services for caregivers. Just last week we had the caregiver conference in Hyde Park. Ton of great information because we all find ourselves as caregivers even if we didn't think of ourselves as such. I remember being 16 and I was learning how to drive. And my parents came to me and they said, would you drive your grandfather to his doctor appointment so he can kind of be your teacher? and you can get some hours in behind the wheel. I didn't realize, you know, I was being his caregiver because he'd had 5 heart attacks and they didn't really trust him behind the wheel anymore, although he was perfectly lucid otherwise. I was his caregiver, and that was, you know, 45 years ago. After he passed away, I was a caregiver for my grandmother, and then my mom, and then my dad and my mom, and when my mom passed away in 2018, I looked up, I said, I've been doing this for 37 years. And I didn't think of myself as a caregiver until I got to the Office for the Aging. So if you are a caregiver or you know someone who's a caregiver, we can get you connected with some assistance. Is caregiving ever going to be easy? No. Could it be rewarding? Often. Sometimes it's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but again, we can try to make that a little bit easier. There are lifelong learning classes for older adults available through various colleges, Dutchess, Marist, Bard, and Vassar. A lot of colleges offer online classes for free. I'll give you a little tip that I use to help myself fall asleep. I watched some really advanced online physics classes from the California Institute of Technology. Really complicated stuff about cosmology just to tire out my brain and help me fall asleep. That actually worked. So you never know what some of these classes are going to be good for. We have picnics. Picnic season is just about to begin. How many of you have been to an Office for the Aging picnic? Good. Okay, good. We've sent out reminder cards. They're not formal invitations to just kind of remember you to save the date and call us if you want to come to the picnic. We do the picnic for Rhinebeck, Milan, and Red Hook, including Tivoli, including Rhinecliff. And it's going to be at the fairgrounds on, I think it's June 11th, if that's a Wednesday. Just register for your space because space is very limited at this thing. But you get the lunch, you get music, all the information you're looking for, perhaps from your local officials too, as we invite the mayor of the village, the town supervisors, county legislators, and they look around and say, this is 400 people who vote, I better show up. Which brings us to part 2. I'm only the opening act. This is our Friendly Calls Outreach Coordinator. Please welcome Linda Edgar.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know about you, but every time I hear Brian talk and give a presentation, I can't help but to be like floored and impressed. Who here learned something that they didn't know before they walked into the room today?
Absolutely.
Okay, almost everybody. Wow. So again, I just want to thank Linda and Pastor Mark for having Brian and us here today. I am an outreach coordinator for the Office for the Aging, and part of my job is to outreach into the community. So this year, I've only been here a year and a half, but this year we decided to do some church outreach, which in my opinion is just a natural alliance with what we do at Office for the Aging, which is we bring hope to people and we care about people. So when I spoke to Linda, we just connected right off the bat, and she invited Brian and I here, and we couldn't be more thrilled to be here today.
And you have food, so.
And you have food and coffee. Who here has heard of Friendly Calls? Okay. So what Friendly Calls is, it's a program that Office for the Aging makes available to our senior population, and we make calls to lonely and isolated seniors. I can't help but to look around this room today and think about how fortunate we all are to be in this room. And there are just so many unfortunate people that could not be here today. So part of the reason why I love this program is it addresses that predicament, okay? So Dutchess County Office for the Aging, County Executive Sue Serino brought the program here to Dutchess County in 2023. And that's a key kind of time frame in the community because we have an epidemic of loneliness that has occurred because of the pandemic, okay? So this program helps connect people in the fact that you don't have to be face-to-face with them. And the epidemic of loneliness and social isolation is not limited to the older population. It's always been something that the older population had to deal with. Now it has become into everybody's view because of the pandemic. And the younger people are majorly affected by social isolation and loneliness. Before I came to Office for the Aging, I was a tennis instructor for 30 years in the community. And up until 2023, when I took this job, I coached Ketchum varsity tennis for both the boys and the girls. And you know, it's so funny because I'm in this crowd here and everybody here is making eye contact with me, looking me in the face. And I noticed when I was coaching after the pandemic, you know, when it was just calming down, when I would talk to my athletes, they would not even look me in the eye. And they would be looking everywhere but at me. And I was like, listen, you're losing. You need to connect with me right now. We need to talk about what's happening here. So it's really important that this is addressed on many levels. So the Surgeon General has declared social isolation as dangerous to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day or drinking 6 alcoholic beverages a day. That just blew me away. And you know, this is a big concern to our communities. I feel social connection is as important as diet and exercise. It's like breathing, okay? We take it for granted, and you all here, like I said, are fortunate that you have one another in this congregate to connect, but like I mentioned, there's a lot of people who don't. So we look at the keys to successful aging. How many close friends do you have? What does your support network look like? How many people do you talk to each day? We do this various ways through religious, social, and civic organizations. And we try to get out and seek happy people wherever you go. Like I mentioned, I was a tennis professional. I was the best part of everybody's day. I have taught heart surgeons, neuroscientists, opera singers, and they were always so happy to see me at the end of the day. So I love being that part of their day. And you know what? You guys can be part of somebody's great day too, okay? And I'm gonna get into that with the friendly calls. Okay, so what friendly calls is you make 1 call a week for 8 weeks, with each call lasting 20 to 30 minutes per call. If you decide you're a big talker and your conversation partner is on board, you can talk 45 minutes to an hour if you like. The thing is to remain consistent with the calls, okay? What you don't want to do is talk 1 week for 10 minutes and the next week talk for 2 hours. And then I'm gonna get a phone call and people are gonna wonder what's going on with, you know, the consistency of it. So you wanna remain consistent, and most people are. And this is all done from the convenience of your living room. Once you complete the orientation training, I assign you a person and you make the calls from your living room on a weekly schedule. I set up the initial call. You set up your weekly schedule, let's say Fridays at 4 o'clock to call this person. Every Friday at 4 o'clock, they're expecting a call from you. You want to make that call because they are looking forward to it. And if you don't make it, I will hear about it, and they will think you are mad at them or upset with them, okay? So it's really important to be consistent in the program. And if you folks are interested, I will even come back here. If I have more than 1 or 2, I will come back here and do an orientation here at your convenience. I'll speak to Linda and Pastor Mark about a convenient time for everybody. We can just train you in 1 hour, and you can be out the door and on your way to giving back to your community and making a difference truly in somebody's life. Okay, I'm going to actually skip this video because I'm going to tell you about a story, and then I promise I won't be as long as Brian. When I first started at the Office for the Aging, I thought, wow, where am I going to find people to enroll into this program? Little did I know how easy it would be to find participants. Volunteers a little bit harder sometimes, but it fluctuates back and forth. So I said, well, we have a friendship center, like Brian mentioned, right downstairs of our building. I went down and I decided to recruit participants in the friendship center. So right off the bat, I connected with 6 people. They enrolled in the program, absolutely loved it. As the weeks went on, I kept going back down, checking in on people, recruiting more people. I happened to notice this one woman sitting in the corner of the room, and she would always stare at me and watch me, but she never approached me. And I said, you know what? Today I'm going to go approach her. And I walked over to her and I said, you know, I see that you're always watching me, and, you know, you never come over. Do you know what I do? And she said, yes, I do. And I go, well, are you interested in enrolling into the program? And she goes, no. She goes, well, yes. And she goes, but I'm scared. And I said, well, why are you scared? I said, you know, it's friendly call. And she said, well, she goes, I recently lost my husband in the past, like, 3 months. And she goes, I'm just scared. I said, listen, just trust me. I'll enroll you in the program. If you don't like it, we'll disconnect, and no harm, no foul. And she goes, okay, she took a chance. So a couple weeks goes by. I set her up with a lovely woman. A couple weeks goes by. I go downstairs, and this woman comes running over to me and throws her arms around me and says, you have done something truly wonderful. And I said, all I did was set you up with a phone call. Like, it really was no big deal. And she goes, no, you don't understand. She goes, when my husband passed away, she had immigrated from another country at a very young age. She wasn't aware that she could get Social Security benefits. So the woman I had paired her with had a commonality where she was also a widow. And that's part of my job, is connecting based on commonalities. And she said to her, she goes, you are collecting benefits from your husband, right? And she said, no, I'm not. So she was able to get her participant the phone number, and not only did she start to receive his benefits moving forward, she was able to get it retroactive. So this one connection, as little as you might think it might be, can grow into something that is just truly beautiful and meaningful for somebody else. So I like to, I'm going to skip this video because I just feel that that story really says a lot about the difference that you can make. So I looked at this woman and I said, you know what? It wasn't me that made the difference. It was you. You were the one that made the difference. I said, but you made me look great. So thank you for that. So moving along here. The Friendly Calls program is an opportunity to provide social support and help reduce isolation for your conversation partner. You can give back in a short period of time. You create your own volunteer schedule. You can connect with somebody with different life experiences, although, like I just explained, I do try to connect you with somebody with commonalities. I actually interview you a little bit, and I interview them. I get to know your personality and your temperaments, your commonalities, and most of the time, the pairings go beautifully, and I make a connection. 85% of our pairings go on to remain to be friends and connected on some level after the initial conversation. You can use empathy and active listening skills. You can volunteer remotely, and you can brighten somebody's day. Like I said, you think a phone call doesn't make a big difference. I tend to disagree. All right, does anybody have any questions regarding anything in the program? Okay. All the information that we handed out has the phone numbers. I have a specific flyer for Friendly Calls. Is there anybody interested in making Friendly Calls? Okay, there's a few. Okay. Like I said, I will come here to do an orientation at your convenience. Linda, you can just reach back out to me, okay? So thank you so much again for having us today.
Thank you.